Hello, my name's Karen and I run ReddskinUK. I make beautiful clothes, bespoke clothes for women, and I also teach people how to sew. One moment, tea time. So today I'm going to teach you how to make this bracelet, this anchor bracelet, you see that, out of a bottle, an empty bottle. So what you need is obviously a plastic bottle. You need a length of fabric. Now, the length of fabric needs to be 3 times as long as the measurement round your hand. So if I measure my hand like this so I can get the bracelet on, it's about 9.5 inches. I work in inches, by the way, which is 24 centimetres. That's my hand. So I have measured a piece of fabric that is 3 times that, so that's 28.5 inches. Then I've added a couple of centimetres at each end for the seam allowance, but I've also measured my bit of plastic. So I've cut a piece of plastic. I wanted quite a thick bangle, so I decided to cut a piece of fabric a couple of inches, 5 centimetres wide, and then I've added something, an edge, so that I can overlap it, and that will make sense. So in terms of fabric, what I've got is the width times 2, because it's got to do the front and the back, and then a couple of centimetres at each end to make sure that I've got a seam allowance. This will make sense. So the first thing I'm going to do is take my fabric. Oh, one more thing. When I cut out, this plastic can be quite pointy on the end. So what I suggest is you take a paper scissors, not fabric scissors, and you round the edges. I don't know whether you can see that, so that it doesn't hurt. And also, it's easier in the long run. It will make sense. Okay. So what I'm doing is I'm folding my fabric right sides together. And I'm going to take some pins, and I'm just going to pin right angles to the edge of the fabric, so that it makes it easier to take the pins out when I'm sewing, as I go along when I'm sewing. So look, I'm not going to pin all the way along because I don't need to, I know what I'm doing, but can you see I've pinned at right angles to the edge of the fabric. So what I'm going to do now is I'm going to sew. So I'm going to bring this over here, and I'm going to sew 1 centimetre in. So I'm going to leave 1 centimetre seam allowance. Trying to find my pedal here. Whoop. And I'm going to sew along, all the way along, taking my pins out as I go along, which is easy because they are at right angles to the fabric. So I'm going all the way along. You can do a smaller seam allowance if you want to. I do 1 centimetre because it's easy to see, basically. But as long as your seam allowance is the same at one end as it is at the other, and it doesn't start 2 centimetres at one end, and by the time you get to the other end it's 1 centimetre. So just try and make sure that when you sew, you're trying to keep your straight line as consistent as possible. So now I'm just going to say something else. I'm just going to say something else about sewing. When I sew, normally I make sure that the throat plate and the needle is in front of my chest, but because I want you to see me, I'm kind of sitting slightly skew width, but I do not recommend this at home. Anyway, all the way to the end. I'm using an old sewing machine today, so it hasn't got one of those lovely cutters on the edge. This sewing machine is probably about 50 years old. Yeah, same age as me actually. But anyway, right, we're going to put that down. So then what I want you to do is I want you to take an iron, and I want you to iron the seam open. So can you see I've done that down the centre? here's one I made earlier. Anybody who remembers Blue Peter is Blue Peter Salon will remember that phrase. So now I've got my length and I've sewn it together. I've got my seam allowance. What I've also done is I've ironed, pressed allowance in as well on the edge. That will become clear. So I'm going to take a chopstick now, and I'm going to put the thick end of the chopstick, maybe I don't know, 7 inches or so that it doesn't fall out. There we go. So what I'm doing is I'm pushing that through. Look, and what it's done, it's magic. It's turned it inside out. Perfect. Right, so now I've got a long tube of fabric. What I'm going to do, see, got a long tube of fabric. What I'm going to do is I'm going to thread. Let me just cut this. Move that out of the way. I'm going to cut that out of the way and turn in. Remember, I ironed the edge, so I'm going to turn that in. Right. So now I've got my bracelet. At the moment, it's just a piece of plastic. Yes, and it's overlapped, so I should be able to get this my arm through it. So what I'm going to do is take this edge and I'm going to thread it through. Again, sorry, because it's curved inwards, put the concave bit and the seam inside. I don't know whether that makes sense. Basically, when the bracelet comes out here, you don't want the seam here, you want it inside, you want it to hide. So that's why I meant that. So I'm going to thread that through, and I'm going to use a clothes peg just to keep that in place, so it doesn't go over the edge when I thread the rest. So again, really can't do this quickly. And then you're trying to do something quickly and it never gets done. Let me just move that out of the way. Bye bye, Benina, because I don't need it anymore. So we're threading this through. Can you see what's happening? It's ruching up. Right, so now we've got our two edges. So take this off, take that off. Now the next bit is to make sure that my hand is going to go through this. So that's too big at the moment. So you've overlapped it, you've made sure it fits you, and you take a stapler and you staple one edge and then the other. If you're using a stapler, you're not sure how to use one because you're young, then make sure that a responsible adult does that for you. And then you take a pin and you tuck the raw edge in to the ironed in edge, the folded in edge. Yeah? You might want to pin that in place. It's up to you. Got there in the end. And then what I would do, take a needle and some matching thread, and you're going to whip stitch, literally hand stitch the edge in place. You can do it really roughly. You don't have to spend a lot of time on it. And then when you've done that, I'm not going to do that now because I don't need to. So when you've done that, just ruche it so that it's even all the way around. Pop it on. And now you've got your bangle. This is perfect if you're going out and you want something to match something, or you just fancy something a little different, or you're making a present for a friend. So, bottle to bracelet in what? How long did that take? 20 minutes tops. Go out, have fun. You can find me on all social media as ReddskinUK, double D, darling. Have a lovely day. Bye.